Relatively short post here, but my aunt is acting so unhinged, I thought it'd fit perfectly here. If you couldn't tell by my Redditor name, I love dragons. I know it may seem weird and childish for someone who's 16 years old, but that's just the way I ended up, I guess. I've recently discovered a series called Wings of Fire, and it feels like it was made for me. I'd explain the plot and stuff, but I don't want this post to get too long. Now my aunt. Oh boy. Here in the UK, Karens are a rarity compared to what seems to go down in the US. But this lady ticks all the checks, overly controlling, thinks the world revolves around her, believes in stupid stuff she reads on totally trustworthy websites, owns annoying pets, and refuses to teach them to behave, and of course is Christian. She even has the stereotypical haircut. She even almost killed me once, but that's a story for another day. Also, my parents also don't like this woman as well for all the reasons I do, but don't want to cut her completely out of our life since they'd feel bad, and they feel she's bearable. Plus, her 2 offspring are surprisingly sane and nice people. Anyway, on to what happened. Here's an abbreviation list to make it easier for you to understand the following details. OP refers to me, EA to entitled aunt, SN to stepmom, E to dad. My aunt decided a few days ago she'd come round our house to just say hello and do the normal middle-aged mum thing of having a chat while their kids just wander around waiting to leave. We were told she was coming in advance, and of course my parents, not wanting to come across as rude, let her. It had been a while since I had last seen her for obvious reasons, and hadn't started my dumb obsession with Wings of Fire back when I had last seen her. Anyway, EA comes in, says her usual greetings to SM and D, and then comes and greets me in my room, playing games, and I am just trying not to say the wrong thing. I have the Wolf book that I'm currently reading through on my table next to my games, and it's literally one of the first things she sees. Obviously, a book about dragons would have a dragon on the cover, so she instantly puts 2 and 2 together and figures out the book is about those funny-looking winged lizards. Instantly, she starts off saying stuff like, "You shouldn't be reading those evil books, OP." And dragons are an embodiment of Satan. I will not have my cousin raised on satanic books, because apparently in her totally believable book of biblical wisdom, there was something about dragons and Satan being connected. Same book that said homosexuality was a sin, just saying. Wanting to stop her tirade, SM and D pulled her out of my room, apologizing profusely for shutting the door. Thankfully, she's not dumb enough to try and come back in, though I can still hear her vaguely speaking in the hush-shocked tone of voice judgmental people do when telling people how to raise their kids, though I can't make out what she's saying. I end up laughing hysterically over her mini-rant over how apparently a book series meant for 10-year-olds is demonic, and go back to playing my game. Later on, after she leaves, D and SM sit me down and have a chat about what she said to them. Apparently, she thought I was being brainwashed by the devil and being made to go down an evil path. She literally straight up said the author of the WOF books worships the devil and drinks baby blood. You can't make this shit up, honestly. SM and D reassure me I'm not in any trouble and just wanted to share what unhinged bees she had to share because they'd know I'd get a good laugh out of it. And damn I did. So here I am, on Reddit, telling this story to you. I knew my aunt was crazy before, but this is a new level. What a squid brain. So remember my entitled aunt from my previous post? If you don't, or didn't see it, she basically thinks a book about dragons stopping an ancient dragon on a murder spree is satanic, and that it's brainwashing me. I know, pretty full on, but what happened to me a few hours ago was just so unhinged, it's literally taken me until just now to comprehend what happened. Since the events of last story, my parents and I have basically gone no contact with EA, which is a lot harder than it sounds due to her offspring being genuinely nice people and not Christian nutbags like her, and we don't want to cut them out too. Anyway, on to this batshit story. I'm currently going to a type of school that isn't really a school per se, more of a know how to act in the workplace and get insight on the job you want type place. Quite a laid-back place, and we do a lot of fun stuff there. Normally, I would have picked up these skills earlier, but due to my autism, Asperger's, and major health problems that kept me off school for a couple years, I never really got to pick those up. Basically, everyone in my family knows where I go, even my entitled aunt's side, somehow despite us never telling them. Most likely through relatives telling other relatives. Anyway, this was the problem, knowing where I went. We finish our work early today, so we get 10 minutes to do whatever as long as it isn't disruptive or overly loud. School ends at 3 o'clock p.m., and it's 2:50 p.m. now. A lot of people just go outside to smoke and wait for the day to be over, but me, being the nerd I am, decide to have a quick read through the next chapter of my Wings of Fire book. Moonwatcher has visions again. Gimli's a witty jig-a-chat in winter is just as insufferable as ever. I finish up my chapter just as it turns 3 p.m. and I go outside, still holding my book by my arm. SM is waiting for me outside. She asks me how my day was, the usual stuff. We're about to get into the car when I hear a voice that just about makes me shit myself. EA's voice. Stop. I turn around to see her walking towards me like she just came out of a fucking JoJo episode. I told you, OP, to not read those books. They're making you evil. Me. Excuse me, but how in the world did you get here in the first place? EA. I've been waiting for you for ages to come out with those nasty books so I can finally take them off you. I don't want your mind getting any more corrupted by Satanism than it already is. At this point, I just started hysterically laughing because it's been implied she's been waiting outside for days now just to take my books. SN loses it at her and tries to get her the fuck away from me, but EA somehow manages to snatch the book off me while my guard is down. Me and SN immediately go to try and take it back, but before we can, well, you read the title. She slams the book on the dirty pavement, picks it up again, and starts ripping it into pieces. I pretend to be hysterical and crying because, oh no, she's ruined my book. If only I had a spare copy so I could continue. Oh wait, I totally have a spare copy, Lamau. Yet by some miracle, Moon Rising is the one Wings of Fire book I have a duplicate of due to a miscommunication with my uncle who's really nice. But, and I mean this in the kindest way possible, a little thick. I don't tell her this, and SN knows about my duplicate as well. SN just glares at EA holding the soggy, tattered book. You know, I could call the police on you now for damaging personal property. EA, just now realizing the gravity of the situation, and for some reason, now holding holy, totally not tap water, throws the book on the ground, yeets the water at me and legs it. We did try reporting this to the police, but they said there wasn't enough evidence, sadly, and due to the area being quiet, no one managed to get it on film. Who knows if my tattered copy of Moon Rising still lays on that pavement right now? I guess we'll find out tomorrow. I'm just done with this lady. She gets more and more cuckoo by the day. I wouldn't be surprised if she ended up in a mental asylum by the end of the year, the rate she's going lunfow. So I woke up today to the news that Karen herself had been investigated by the police anyway, despite them saying there wasn't evidence, and apparently when the police arrived, she legged it. Police being police caught her, and she's currently under investigation for a whole myriad of charges. Hope that bitch ends up serving some jail time. I managed to convince my parents to take legal action. We're currently seeing if we can get a restraining order put in place like everyone said I should. Karen is still under investigation, but it ain't looking too good for her, thankfully. Oh, and the book isn't there anymore, unfortunately. Some trash man must have got rid of it. One final thing, some people asked about where my uncle is in all of this. And, well, the simple answer is he divorced Karen after she almost killed me, Lamau. I'll get to that story once everything is legal, and that is over and done with. I'll keep you all posted on how this develops. Hey there, been a solid minute, huh? If you don't recognize me or missed my last few posts, my insane aunt destroyed my book from my beloved Wings of Fire collection. It's about dragons. Used to think my obsession considering my age was weird, but I've learned not a lot of people gonna judge someone based on their taste of 10-year-old aimed books. Anyway, enough rambling, let's get into what's happened and the story I promised about how she was almost responsible for my death. First, what happened after my story about her sending my book to the backrooms. Long story short, Big Karen got slapped into jail for a solid few weeks for assault of a minor and a few other charges. We reported what happened to the authorities, and she broke down as soon as she was investigated. We also managed to get a restraining order put in place on her. Not gonna get into more detail than that since it's boring legal stuff. Now the big story, the one you've all been waiting for. My mother was very ill during this story, and due to the illness, everyone, except naive 11-year-old me, knew she wasn't gonna make it. Due to my father drowning in paperwork that needed to be finished as soon as possible to sort out my mother's illness, he decided it was best for me to stay around my aunt and uncle's place for a few weeks until everything was sorted out. A lot of people wonder where my uncle was in all this, and here he is. He's since divorced my aunt, since he couldn't deal with her BS presumably, which is why he was never mentioned in the previous story. Anyway, the first few days went fine. This was before my aunt went all Christian and crazy presumably to try and make up for this incident. I changed up. I'm following the Lord now. My brother in Christ, you sound like the Pope took cocaine. Anyway, after a few days, I start feeling unwell. It's nothing, just a cold, right? Right? I fucking wish it was. Shit really hit the fan after that. I couldn't lay down without my back or anywhere else aching like crazy. I felt absolutely wrecked 99.9% of the time. I had no appetite, and I was vomiting like every day. Huge red flag to my aunt, right? Nope, she just dismissed it as stress due to my ill mother. Even when I requested to go to the hospital, she just said, "It's just your stress from your mother. Try not to worry about it." Like, bitch, does my entire body aching 24/7 say stress to you? Because I don't think so. At this point, my dad realizes shit's going so far south, we're basically at Antarctica, so he tries to get involved but never can do. Not because of paperwork this time, because of what I was unaware of until very recently. I'll get into that later. Eventually, after a few more days of living in hell, my dad just says fuck it and gets me to the hospital without my aunt's permission and gets a blood test done. The result? I had fucking leukemia. Treatment happened as soon as possible, and thank fuck I lived to tell the tale. I'm doing fine now, don't worry, but my dad told me something about her after she got sent to the clink which just baffled me. I knew this lady was insane, but the levels of insanity I tried to do behind my back, the English language does not have a suitable word for. She tried to adopt me for my dad, against his will. That's right. Apparently, she thought the only reason my dad dropped me off there was because he didn't want to take care of me, not because he couldn't for the moment. That could not be further from the truth. My dad is an amazing person who would love their child as much as any sane person would. But that's why he never came round. My aunt refused him over. The levels of absolute audacity. It's unreal. If I knew any better, I'd go so far as to call this attempted murder. I'm gonna close this post by saying thanks for all the comments on the last 2 posts about this bitch. It's thanks to you my family decided to take the steps needed to hold this rhinoceros accountable. Hopefully, I never encounter this waste of a human being again. And sorry about the long gap between this post and the last one. We were getting everything legal sorted out, and I wanted to make sure this story was definitely over.